Hey y'all, my name is Nick and welcome back to State of Woods Co. In this video, we're going to do things a little bit different. And the story of this video starts about 5 years ago. When I was clearing the land to build my home, I found this little red oak tree that had this beautiful burl on it. And I knew I wanted it for a future project, so I cut it down and I've been letting it dry ever since. About 3 years ago, I took a piece of that burl and cut it off, and I rough turned this bowl. And I'm no expert at wood turning, it's pretty obvious with the way I'm holding that tool there, but I turned it out and this thing was looking amazing. But if you know anything about wood turning, you realize that that is sort of a dangerous bowl. This thing could blow up in your face at any time with all these holes and voids and bark inclusions and grain patterns just going everywhere. So we had to do something about it. So the first thing that I'm going to do to stabilize this wood is to put it into a vacuum chamber or vacuum pot and add some stabilizing resin. In my case, it's cactus juice. I'll have a link in the description below to this. So what we're going to do is completely submerge that block of wood in that stabilizing resin. We'll just put some weights on it to keep the wood from floating. That vacuum chamber is going to suck out all of the air that's trapped in the wood, in the voids, in the pores of the wood, and allow that resin to penetrate the wood. So as we reduce the vacuum and introduce air back into the system, it is going to create a negative pressure and push all of that resin right into that wood. Now we're not just done yet. We're going to heat up the oven, which is for me just a cheapo oven from Goodwill, 200 degrees for 2 hours. So while that's warming up, please go hit like and subscribe down below and leave a comment at the end of this video. I'd love to know how you think this bowl turned out. Now you will leave that in the vacuum chamber until you see the air bubbles that were created dissipate. And then it'll just look like wood floating in water. But now what we're gonna do is wrap it up like a hot tortilla or a Mexican burrito bowl. I don't know. We'll wrap it up in aluminum foil. We'll stick it in the oven for the 2 hours. And yeah, it reminds me of Chipotle almost. Anyway, into the oven it goes, and now we just wait.
2 hours later.
And now that we've taken it out, it doesn't look any different. That's what I love about this stuff. It stabilizes the wood, but it really doesn't affect the color or texture of it at all. It's amazing stuff. But who wants to look at a bowl that looks like that? So we're gonna change it up a little bit. And today I'm gonna go with my go-to epoxy, which is Total Vote High Performance. I'm gonna go with the slow hardener. And that's gonna allow for a little bit slower cure time, allowing that epoxy to penetrate into the wood, even reduce some of the air bubbles that could come out. Now I love using black diamond pigments. You can mix and match, create any color that you want, any look that you're going for. I'll leave a link in the description below to them. Now to make this pour easy, I found this plastic half sphere on Amazon. It worked perfect for this. The epoxy didn't stick to it at all. Well, that might be a lie. You'll see in a minute. Man, I love that color, and the contrast with that wood is gonna look awesome. But you have to remember to pour more than you think, because that wood is gonna absorb that. All that epoxy is gonna fill those voids and holes. And you don't wanna come up short. You'd rather have too much epoxy, because when we put it on the lathe, we can turn it off later. And make sure to weigh it down so it's just not floating in that epoxy. Now, I waited about 32 hours to take this out, and this thing was rock hard. And I thought this plastic bowl was going to be really easy to get out, but it was not. It took a little work. I probably cut about 15 minutes of video out from me just trying to beat the crap out of this thing and finally get it to pop. And it eventually did. This actually worked the best, pushing from the top down, because, you know, physics and all just made sense. But eventually it came out and it looked so cool. Huh, it sort of looked like I made half a bowling ball. Yeah, maybe that's how they make them. I don't know. Let's just get to turning this thing, see what it looks like on the inside. Now this is an old Craftsman lathe, and I am no expert. To be honest with you, this is the first bowl I've ever turned. I've turned little mini bats and mallets and things like that, but nothing like a bowl. And this is the first time I've ever used carbide bit tools also. So you professional wood turners out there, you're gonna get a laugh. I learned a lot, but I made a bunch of mistakes, and you guys are gonna benefit from it. Okay, first thing I want to ask you professional wood turners, you can leave a comment below. How do you get this stuff to not shoot in your face? It makes for really cool content and it looks awesome, but how are you supposed to see and work at the same time? Am I holding the tool wrong or something? I don't know. looking good so far. But, oh man, there's already a hole in it. It was bigger than I expected, but it's okay. We're gonna fix it. Alright, we got it turned down pretty good. And yeah, there's some holes here and there, but that's nothing that Total Boat can't fix again. Let's go right back inside and pour some more. Alright, here's a little secret I like to do. If you know you're going to have to pour multiple different layers of epoxy, and you know you're going to need to color match those, mix up all your pigments dry in another container, and then just take from that and pour it into your epoxy. That way all your layers are the exact same color. Simple. I like to go down to the drugstore and pick up some syringes and even some little needles and use that to fill all these little holes in the epoxy. And you may have to pour it multiple times, let some cure, and then rotate it so that you get the whole bowl covered because, you know, gravity and all, it makes it run. Look at that. Look how cool that looks. But it's still not finished bowl. Let's get back to turning again. Alright, so I've got the outside of the bowl turned the way I want it. I hit it with some sandpaper, and I'm a very impatient person. So I'm going to throw on some Bumblechutes to this thing. This is their all-in-one wood conditioner. It works great right on the lathe. It smells like lemon pound cake icing. It smells so good, but it looks even better. I'll leave a link in the description below to them. Oh man, I am loving the way this thing looks. So now it's time to turn the inside. So now that we've got the tenon on the bottom, we'll put the chuck in, spin it around, tighten it down, and it's time to start throwing some more shavings around. This stuff's so much fun. I love the way it looks coming off the lathe. Now, I want you guys to remember, this is my first bowl, right? So I am no expert. I have no expertise in this whatsoever, but yet I'm doing it. I'm having a blast. So if you ever have a chance to do some wood turning, find a friend that has a lathe. There's nothing bad gonna happen. It's so much fun. What's the worst that could happen? You're just gonna tear up a piece of wood and have to start over? That's fine. It's not like it's gonna hurt you. Oops. I totally forgot about that. I should probably edit my voiceovers a little bit better. But anyway, look, it didn't even hurt it that much. It took a little chunk out of the tenon, which is okay, especially for this type of bowl, because it adds character. I had a little catch on the bottom of there, and if we rewind, I will show you what I did wrong. Okay, first thing, I'm trying to push cut here, and that is a sorry excuse for a push cut. I mean, this is sped up so it looks better, but in real life, it was terrible. And then to clean up some of those ridges, I decided to spin it around and do like a shearing cut, and that was just a terrible idea. I took too much meat at one time, and the tool grabbed just a little bit, just enough on that weird grain direction to throw it across the room. Well, that's embarrassing, but really the only thing there is to do is to just get right back on the horse and start working on it again. And that's what I did. Except I tried the push cut a couple more times, and then I just got nervous. So I switched to the carbide tools. Carbide tools are a lot easier for beginners. You don't have to worry about riding the bevel like this, or worrying about having catches because you're too far into the cut or too far out, or if you're scraping wrong. It's just one single carbide blade, and it's actually really easy on resin and epoxy projects too. But I did turn back around, and I gave the push cut a try again, and I was actually getting the hang of it a little bit. I decided that since I'm just learning, I would go back and forth between the tools to see which one worked the best and in what situation. Now the bowl's around the right shape, It's not the correct thickness, but that's okay. I want to fill in all these little voids again. So I made up some more epoxy and I just brushed it in. I let it get tacky a little bit, almost to the point where it could cure, and I rotated the bowl some and filled some more spots. And I got carried away with it. I just went crazy, and I basically just painted almost the entire inside of the bowl to fill all those little micro pores and voids and any little thing that I could find. And it looked really cool, but I gotta cut it all away. So I put it back on the lathe, and because the thickness of that epoxy was completely different in all those little areas, I did not want to go back to the push cut with the bowl gouge. So I went straight to the carbide tools, and it made pretty quick work of all this resin. Plus, from what I hear, the epoxy can be really hard on your bowl gouges. So the carbide tool just made the most sense in this situation. Okay, now I know you pros are going to tell me I need to get some type of rotating sander for the drill or orbital sander of some sort to get rid of these grooves, because the lathe can cause some pretty deep grooves, but I don't have that. So I just use some really fine sandpaper from Klingspor. These little foam pad sanding pads from Klingspor are amazing. They're my go-to for this stuff. Okay, and it's now back to put on a final coat of the Bumblechutes. Now obviously I sanded a little bit of the outside of the bowl because I had some grooves in it I did not like from the first go around. So I went ahead and redid it, and this, oh golly, that bowl is looking amazing. The Bumblechutes just really brings out that grain. A little cleanup on the bottom, and my first bowl is a wrap. I am in love with how this turned out. For my very first bowl turning project, my first epoxy wood combo project, from a free piece of wood that I got off the land, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Is it perfect? No, but did I learn a lot and challenge myself in this? I sure did. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hit like and subscribe down below. Check out our other videos, and I'll see you on the next one.